Hi everyone. So we're in that weird in-between period between Christmas and New Year. And with that in mind, I've got some time and I wanted to jump on to do a video around whether we should still be buying backlinks as we're going into the new year. And ultimately, what does it mean to buy backlinks? I think there's quite a few different ways to approach this and what actually buying backlinks means. Whether you're buying links in terms of you're actually giving money for it or you're just paying for time for somebody to do genuine outreach for you. So the first bit really is why would you buy backlinks? Why would you start looking for that type of service or looking to outsource link building in general? And I think really the big part of it comes down to time. I think for a lot of people, link building isn't necessarily as complex of a process as something like technical SEO. It's more just the amount of time that is required because there's so many moving parts, especially if it's something like guest posting and publisher outreach where you're not necessarily looking more at the creative elements, which then that can get quite complex, or something like a broader digital PR campaign. But something like blogger outreach, publisher outreach, guest posting, that sort of thing, I suppose anybody could do it. It just doesn't scale very well when you're trying to do it yourself alongside having to do all the other aspects of SEO as well. So really, I think that's why you would buy backlinks. You're looking to save time. You're looking to outsource the process to somebody that you can trust ultimately. There is a lot of disinformation going around with links. So ultimately, when you're looking to buy backlinks, you're doing it because either you don't know what you should be buying, so you're relying on an agency or a freelancer or someone to help you with that portion, or you know what you want to buy, you just literally don't have the time to do it, so you need to outsource that. So yeah, whether you want to approach it as in you're literally exchanging money or exchanging time, understand why you would want to be buying backlinks in the first place, and what you want to get out of that. Do you want a strategic partner in it, or do you literally know what you need, you just don't have the time to do it, so you need to outsource that part of the process. Okay, so when it comes to buying links, what shouldn't you be doing? I think the worst thing that you can do is just approach some sort of marketplace or an agency and just go, here's my budget, like, just get me anything. I think the main thing really is that you've got a vetting process in place. If you sign up to my newsletter, we'll go over here, you will get access to the resources hub, and there's this starter sort of base template analysis for, especially if you're doing guest posting and blogger outreach. So we can start to make notes on sites and give them a grade based on, do they publish content that's wildly outside of their niche? Do they have links to Forex and casino and those types of grey niches? Do they actually have a social media presence, or are they just AI people plastered with AI content? And has the site seen heavy traffic drops in the last 12 to 24 months? I think that's a big one as well. I know there's been a lot of sites that have been hit unfairly by the helpful content updates, but you can sort of look at that alongside everything else. Did they deserve to be hit in the first place because they're clearly just, an AI, PBN, or something like that. So, for example, here we can take a look at a popular sort of guest posting site like this. Immediately we're greeted with AI imagery. There's no links to socials that we would expect to see on the footer. If we take a look in Ahrefs, there's a clear sort of traffic decline over the last 2 years. Then we go to their outgoing anchors, and they've got quite a lot of links out to Forex and casino and things like that. So that's the sort of thing that I mean when I'm saying this isn't what you should be doing. Or if you are taking that approach to sort of much broader guest posting, have an option where you can pre-approve and you can do checks on your side as well. So for example, if you wanted to get X amount of links per month and you did want to go down the guest posting route, even if you're not pre-approving the content that gets sent to the bloggers and the publishers, at least have oversight on who is going to be receiving that content. So you can do checks on your side as well. Whoever's buying the links might use something like a blend of Ahrefs and SEMrush, and you might want to use Majestic, or you might have different checks that they have listed on their site. So ultimately, being able to pre-approve those just means that you have that oversight before a link is placed. So you're not then having to go back and say, look, this link is just completely useless. It's on a site that just doesn't get any traffic. They're linking out to anyone who'll give them $50. I want to get rid of the link. Going for a pre-approval option will ultimately make that process a bit easier, because if you don't like the links, you can just say it before anything is placed, either swap it out or get a refund at that point. There is a shameless plug to this, so that's ultimately what we do, the blogger outreach service. So there is pre-approval and then non-approval options. Obviously you don't have to go with complete white label and go with whoever is offering that sort of thing, but I think the main thing really is that you're working with someone who is transparent, and that's the biggest thing with link building, I would say, is that whether it's a strategic partner who is working with you on a link building strategy from the outset, or just you going, okay, we've noticed that our competition are doing a lot of guest posting or journalist requests, so you need a strategic partner who is transparent and can just take you through that entire process, and doesn't have anything to hide ultimately. So we've covered transparency there, and I think the next point is context of the link. Is the link contextual to the niche, or is at least the content that's being placed on the site contextual to a niche? And does that link make sense based on what your competition are doing and what you would expect an authority site in your sector to be doing? That's where something like a link gap analysis is quite nice to look at. So for example, I've just put my SEO site in here with whoever Ahrefs suggested as direct competition, and we can start to look at what are the approaches outside of your typical. There's a lot of scrapers and things like that anyway, but for example, if we saw like there was a competitor with quite a lot of links that clearly came from digital PR campaigns and everyone else was doing guest posting, and we can start to see that competitor take off because they might be getting less links, but the links that they are getting are very high quality, then we know, okay, for the next 6 to 12 months we clearly need to make some sort of digital PR link building a priority, because that's what's working in the long term, and we can see it's very clearly working in our niche because this competitor who was here is now here, and we think digital PR and journalist requests and that sort of route link building is clearly contributing to their growth. So rather than just trying to work backwards and get every single link that your competitors have in a link intersect, I would definitely say it's not that. But just look at the types of links that they're building and what's working for the sector, so you can say, okay, we need to do X amount of blogger outreach and guest posts if you do indeed need to do it. Or the same the other way around, if you're a much smaller site, maybe you don't need digital PR, you might be fine with just a couple of guest posts and blogger outreach and some citations from a local SEO side of things. So yeah, making sure that those links are contextual, and then how you're approaching that type of link building. So with local SEO, working with actual local publishers, or if it's more of a national e-commerce site, trying to get in national press and getting those brand mentions that way. So you can use a link intersect to get that data, rather than just saying, here's everything our competitors have, so we need that as well. That's definitely not the way to approach it. I would always say quality over quantity when it comes to any type of link building. And then the third point there, which I think is just going to be more and more important as Google and search engines in general get better at understanding context and quality from a links perspective, is having that blended approach of digital PR, publisher outreach, proper publisher outreach, not spammy guest posts and things like that. And just trying to build a well-rounded link profile that doesn't just rely on one element, but is ultimately natural. And I think the really big thing here, which is going to be massive for the next year and ongoing really, is added brand value and getting your brand out to places that your audience is actually interacting online, and ultimately getting your name and links in those publications is a big sort of brand authority indicator from a search engine side of things as well. Obviously we want the link, but brand mentions I think are going to get more important, especially with Search GPT and things like that, where your brand is getting mentioned on sort of roundup lists and things. So even if you don't get a link, you might still get featured in those results. We could do another video on that anyway, but I think definitely focusing on brand building rather than just getting the link for link's sake from wherever will give you one. I think we're definitely starting to move past that, or have moved past that anyway. So having that blended approach just means that you're not relying on one singular method of link building, and you're focusing more on that broader brand building piece. So if I was starting a new site or working with a new client, where would we look to put our link budget together? What's going to be important, and how can we do it in a way that sort of mitigates? There's always some element of risk, I suppose, to any link building, but mitigates risk as much as possible in a way that is as white hat as possible. So I would approach it like this. I think journalist requests are a really good place to start, especially if you are an authority in your sector and you can just start to get out to relevant publications. So using your platforms like Quoted, Featured, all these different ones, that's a really nice way to get started, because the time that you need is much less than something like a broader digital PR campaign. And there's a lot less relying on those larger data pieces. So you can just do a quick 15-20 minute response and just move on with your day, and just, have time to check in on those different request platforms each day. But those are really, really good in terms of getting those initial links to the homepage of the site. They're typically very natural branding mentions, and they're usually on very high authority publications, especially if you use a premium platform like Quoted. I've always found that that's the best one when it comes to getting actual press links from a journalist request style platform. The next one is a little bit more involved, but I would say definitely looking at digital PR campaigns and having the view of that with coupling that with journalist requests. So another shameless plug, we have this complete white label, so that is our approach. So we would do digital PR campaigns combined with journalist requests. So that's how we approach it, rather than doing one or the other. It's just a combined approach, so you're not relying on just journalist requests or just digital PR campaigns. You're going after the two. So for example, here we could have requests going out on behalf of yourself through Quoted and those different platforms, and then you've always got those digital PR campaigns going, so you can jump on anything that's seasonal, anything that's topical. And if you want to do this yourself, this is the way that we would approach it. So for example, here, this was a client, I've just removed it due to non-disclosure, but for example here, what are the themes around motoring and driving? And then what are the types of campaigns that we can do based on that? So, reactive campaigns or broader data campaigns, and how does that then tie into the time of year, or anything that's topical? So you can start to preempt things that could be happening throughout the year, and then also having a look at ones that are just truly cyclical. So for example, Christmas, driving home for Christmas tips, something like that would pretty much be covered every year. Or if it's travel, it might be things around how to get the best travel deals. So you can start to get those concrete ones that you're planning throughout the year and repurposing, and then you're having time to react to things as they come through as well, which, to be honest, is very similar to what journalist request link building is anyway. But instead of waiting for the question to come from the journalist, you can do a proactive press release and get that out there and be the first one to it before that question even comes to you, and then it already might be too late. So that's a really nice way of approaching digital PR more broadly when we're looking at it from a link building perspective, because you're getting it from both sides. And you're just casting all of those nets out there in a way that you're not just relying on one approach. So if your journalist requests for that month don't work, your digital PR campaigns might. Or if it's the other way around, nothing gets picked up, but that there's always those requests going out in the background. And then blogger outreach and publisher outreach and actual guest posting, I think, is definitely still a viable option. Like I said at the start, though, you just have to be very careful about how you're going about it. And I think having that transparent approach to it is really, really important. So not working with sites that are linking out to excessively to casino and Forex and have clearly been just hit time and time again by spam updates and the helpful content updates and all this sort of thing. Taking more of an approach where you're looking at, do they actually have social profiles? Are they active? Can I vet that they're a real person? Have they got any fluctuation over the last 24 months, sort of thing? So I think, definitely blogger outreach is still certainly a viable link building option. It's just not a case of, I've got this much money and I'll just spend it on links each month and I won't even look. And it's the same whether you're doing niche edits or actual sort of blogger outreach guest posting as well. I think just have a process in place and work with someone who clearly has a process in place, so that you're sort of protecting your authority and your site over the long term as well. Then the last one for me comes to content allocation budget rather than purely a link building side of things, but that is putting together data pages and stats pages to create passive link building opportunities over the long term. So that sort of ties into what is your content budget rather than strictly your budget for links. But for example, something like this is fantastic. Gardening statistics, just an evergreen piece that can get updated throughout the year. It's really easy for someone to go in, like a journalist or a publisher, pull out the data that they need, and then you can start to internally link to your commercial pages within that. So you start to build up your own little hub of authority, and it just means that you're not just relying on those links that are coming into the room. So yeah, just in summary, I think, is buying backlinks inherently a bad thing? I would say no. I think it's just very important that you have a process in place to understand what you're buying, and where that money's going. Is it going on creative and time, or is it someone just transferring money from you over to a questionable publisher for a link that's just gonna massively decline in authority over time anyway? If you've got any questions on links or anything like that, just drop me a comment. I'm definitely going to be making more videos in the new year, so stay tuned for that. And if I don't hear from you, I'll catch you in the next video.